That's insane.
Wow. That's completely open up. Yep.
That's so crazy. I mean, I know it's not crazy to you, but to me, this is crazy.
Yeah. Hey guys, and welcome to this new video. Today we are going to do something really exclusive. I'm gonna take you behind the scenes of a full session, of a full neurotraining session with me. I don't think it's something I've ever done in the past, just because I think it's a little bit weird to ask the clients to record a full session. Usually I record like different snippets or maybe like some before and after assessments and things like that. But in this case, I was actually working with a girlfriend of one of my good friends here, and I asked her if it's okay to document a little bit of the session, and she agreed. And yeah, that's why I thought this could be really, really cool for you guys to see how neurotraining works. How do I structure a session? Where do I start with people? How does it work? What are the different steps? And yeah, I think this is going to be really helpful for a lot of you guys. In the beginning, I just wanted to share this for my advanced neurotraining master practitioners. But since I always get the question of like, yeah, like how do I integrate neurotraining in my work? Where do I start? What do I do? How does it look like in practice? I thought this could be a perfect example how you could use neurotraining for your clients, and this is also going to give you a little bit more of like like insider view on how I approach working with the nervous system, because it's like the way we teach it here at the Neurotraining Institute is just different than anything else you can find anywhere else, just because I have kind of like the way I approach things is a combination of a lot of different things. I like to address, obviously, neurology. I like to fuse it with biomechanics. I like different concepts from psychology. So it's like a lot of different concepts fused within one big concept, which all address the nervous system. And that's why it's called neurotraining. Okay, and yeah, so to give you a little bit of like background as to, first of all, like who I work with mainly with neurotraining is I mainly work with either athletes improving their performance, like more like performance enhancement, or it's more with people like her in her case, which has more to do with like pain reduction and pain management, improving mobility and so on. So it's kind of like these two categories that I mainly work with, so performance enhancement or kind of pain relief. And to give you a little bit of like background on her case study, or like on her case, she actually has been dealing with chronic neck tension and neck pain for over 10 years at this point. So she's still pretty young, but the pain started in her like teenage years. She just basically woke up one day and she just had this weird pain on her left side. And yeah, she basically reached out to me, had a phone call with her, asked her about a few things about her history, what she's tried so far, because I just always want to see, okay, like, is it something that I can actually help her with, or is it maybe like outside of what I actually do? And it definitely sounded something that I could help her with. And yeah, the results that we had just within one session was actually really, really cool. And that's why I kind of want to share some of the insights, because I think for a lot of you guys, this is going to be really, really helpful. So to kind of like walk you through the different steps, how I structure a session, what exactly I do in a session, is that first of all, what I do before the first appointment is I always have, of course, like a quick phone call, briefly trying to get to know about like the history, what she's tried so far, and so on and so forth. But then I also always ask my clients or my athletes to send me posture photos. Okay, so they usually just send me photos of them front, side, and back. And the reason why I do this is because I want to see how somebody manages gravity. Okay, so in my opinion, there's no like good or bad posture. Okay, so like standing upright with your shoulder blades squeezed together for me is not good posture. It is just posture. Okay, but what posture tells me is where does somebody hold tension and how does somebody overcome gravity. Okay, and gravity turns out to be one of the biggest stressors for our nervous system, right? Because one of the biggest fears of humankind is the fear of falling. That's why we have to find a way to manage gravity, okay? And she did that, and immediately kind of what I saw from her postural pictures, I can't share them here just because it's, you know, I just don't want to share the pictures of her in a sports bra. But immediately what I saw in the pictures was that she was holding a lot of tension in her left side, okay? And the way I saw this was kind of because her left shoulder blade was super retracted and like the shoulder blade on the left side was pretty squeezed. And this was kind of the first insight for me to see, okay, where does she hold tension? So she was kind of really turned to one side, which was definitely very interesting to see. Then I also had her send me over some basic movement assessments. So in her case, it was just a toe touch assessment and a squat assessment. I usually just like to do this because it's easy for clients to send me that prior to the meeting. And it also tells me a lot about how they overcome gravity. It tells me a lot about how much range they have available in their hips, what's going on with their feet, with their knees, with their neck, rib cage. Like it tells me a lot what's going on in terms of some of their biomechanics. And again, this is just something that I like to see before I see the client face to face, so I can kind of have an idea where to start with the client. Okay, so in her case, I was just taking notes, and I was like, okay, she's probably holding a lot of tension in her left rib cage, so her left rib cage is kind of turned to the left. And then basically, like, the way I usually start my session, so that's step number one, is kind of just getting the posture photos, as well as like some movement assessments, as well as just like a brief questionnaire on like their medical history and things like that. And then, and the second step is when I see them in person, I usually just, first of all, I sit down with them and I talk, because especially with pain people, I just found that it's extremely important to first of all listen to, okay, like, when does the pain start? Like, did she recognize any patterns in terms of, okay, every time I do this, I'm in pain? Or I also asked her, okay, like, what have you done so far that has worked really well? And then what have you done so far that has worked absolutely not? And it was so interesting. Like, all of this information is so valuable for me as a coach, just because I want to see, okay, like, what do I probably not do with her? So one thing that she actually told me, which was super interesting, was that every time she got massages, so hands-on work, manual treatment, she got worse every single time. And that just basically told me that, okay, probably like either she worked with some really bad people, but, you know, like, she worked with, I think, like 3 different people. Okay, like, maybe if you work with one bad person, that can happen, but like the probability to work with like 3 really bad massage therapists, I would say it's pretty small. So it just basically told me, okay, like, probably like hands-on stuff is maybe not the solution for her. Which I'm not a manual therapist or anything. I'm not a massage therapist. This is something that I usually don't do anyways with clients. I mean, I use some sensory exercises with clients, but it's nothing like crazy. Okay, so that was kind of really interesting for me to see, okay, like, where does she start, and what is some of her history. Then usually, like, with pain people, and I think this is also something that if you go to the pain masterclass that I also have available, In the pain masterclass, I break down a few really important and basic concepts about pain, which I also always share with my clients before we do anything, because I want them to actually be educated on what pain actually is. And I think a key concept, I don't want to talk too much about it. If you're interested, just check that masterclass out. It's also available. I usually just like to have them understand that only because you're feeling pain doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong in your body. Okay, like this is just something that I usually always educate clients on when it comes to that. Okay, so first of all, it's kind of just the photos, the videos, and then it's sitting down with the client talking about the history. And already in the history, I was able to find a lot of valuable nuggets that told me, or like showed me maybe some interesting ways how I could help her. And one thing that she actually told me, which was super interesting, and you're gonna see that in a second. I'm gonna walk you exactly through like what I did with her with her vestibular system. She told me that right around the time when she developed these weird pains, she actually had an infection that affected her inner ear. So like a viral infection that affected her vestibular system, so her body's own balancing system. And she started to develop some weird symptoms in terms of vertigo and dizziness, which she didn't have before. And that is very interesting because in my opinion, when you have people that have any sort of vestibular or also visual issues, then it's really, really hard to get any results if you don't address these underlying issues. That's just what I have had the experience with. Like it's the same with athletes that maybe like had a concussion or a head injury. Like you have to address these things because otherwise you're gonna have so much protective tone in their whole system that oftentimes will result in a lot of like weird pain or movement restriction type symptoms, sleep issues and things like that. So that's why I think it's so important to always like ask them about these types of things. And again, the better your questions are when you sit down with a client, the less work you actually have to do with them. Or like not the less work, but like the more efficient you are with your work. And you know, that's something that I always try to teach in my courses is I don't like to teach people just straight up like protocols on what to do, but I like to teach them principles to actually really understand, okay, like how do you address the nervous system in the most efficient way? Because, you know, when you see me, because for example, with her shoulder flexion, like we improved her shoulder range of motion, neck range of motion, probably within 2 minutes. Less than 2 minutes. And that was just because I know how to efficiently work with the nervous system. And this is not something that, you know, like, I mean, it's something I can teach, but I think it's something where I always want to encourage my students to actually think and really ask good questions. So then we can be like, okay, like you just basically learn how to put the puzzle pieces together, which was exactly what I did with her. And so this is, I think one really key finding. I know you're just really interested in like what I exactly did with her, but I think this is really valuable information that you first of all have to get information during the conversation with the client, with the athlete, or with, if you're like a therapist, like with your patients. So then what I usually do, as you can see here also in the video, is before I do anything, I like to really, I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller here. I like to guide them through different movement and range of motion assessments. So this is more like table tests. If you're like a physio or like a massage therapist, then you're probably familiar with these. I don't use any like crazy things. I usually like to test for like hip flexion, straight leg raise. I like to test for like hip extension. So I do like the Ober's test and things like that. Then I also always test for shoulder range of motion. So let me see, neck range of motion here. So I just guide her, like I just basically in the first step, I just basically was guiding her through a lot of different like movement and mobility assessments in the first place. And with her, it was definitely interesting. Like when you look here, for example, with her, I'm just gonna make this a little bit, with her shoulder flexion in her first try, like this was kind of the range of motion that she had available. So that was exactly how far she was able to go. Okay, so like she was not able to go further than maybe like shortly before her ears. Okay, so she definitely was very limited. And if you compare that to her right side was a lot better. Okay, so remember, like the left side was where she had those weird neck and shoulder pains that really have been bothering her for over 10 years. So this is kind of always the first step. As you can see, it doesn't take longer than like 5 minutes to get like some good assessments in. Again, I test for like neck range of motion, neck rotation, lateral flexion, and things like that. And once I have that, I really just want to see, okay, like how do certain drills and like some certain assessments affect her nervous system. So in her case, since she told me that thing with the vestibular system, I jumped straight into different assessments for her balance. So like we did basically just like a few balance assessments, nothing like too crazy, just so I can like see, okay, like what's going on with her, how well is she able to hold her balance. And then I jumped straight into a few like vestibular exercises with her. Okay, so in this case, we're just basically stimulating specific canals in her vestibular system, which again, like we have the vestibular system, which has the different semicircular canals. And in this case, we're just basically being very specific with some of the findings that I had with her in her assessment. So it's always like assessments, and then I pick a specific drill. I usually do the drill for around 30 seconds. Usually it's a good time. And then what I did after that was like we played around a little bit here. And then here is right now, like this is, again, as you can see, I didn't edit anything here. Like this is all like real time. So this was the result. And I don't know if you can hear that sound, but that was pretty cool. Like she was super surprised. I was surprised too. I don't know if you can hear it or not. I can hear it here in my headphones, but yeah. So she was like, as you can see, like that was so much better. Like now we're like way behind her ears, and like later on in the session, like it got better and better and better. Just by addressing a few more things for her, and like I could literally like feel it, like the neck was just really like loosening up, which was really nice to see. And she was telling me, she was like, this is crazy. Like I know for you it's normal, but for me it's crazy. Like she was like basically telling me all these things, which was really cool. Always for me, it's as a coach, you kind of want to have your poker face ready. But I mean, as you can see, I was kind of I've kind of blown away too. I mean, I've been doing this for so many years now, but it's every single time it just really like makes me super happy to see results like that within such a short amount of time. And of course, like this is not all that we're gonna do with her, but like this is already telling me, okay, like again, there's something going on with the vestibular system. There's something going on with the inner ear that we probably have to address, that we probably have to actually train to get her better at that. Okay. So this is just basically like what I did with her in sort of the first steps. Then we jumped straight into a few more drills with for the eyes. Specifically here, I'm actually again addressing the left eye with her. I did a few like assessments with her in terms of like how well her eyes are moving. And she almost dropped the pen in her ear, in her eye. The session was almost over here, but she survived and everything was good. And then, she actually, like after the vision exercise, we did another assessment here, and that was even better, I believe, than the vestibular. So this was incredible. So as you can see now, I mean, Let me just quickly go back to I think this might have been like the first assessment here. Okay, so this was before, right? So we have this range of motion. That was, let's see. Yeah, this is all that she had in the beginning. And then after we did address the eyes as well, she completely opened up, which was really cool to see and really interesting to see. Okay, so I mean, at this point, I could have been like, okay, perfect. Like, you know, we need to address the vestibular system. We need to address the visual system. Good seeing you. But since I always, you know, I really want to also address it from, sorry, I'm a little bit too big here. Since I always want to also address, again, how the person not only works on like a sensory level, but also on a biomechanical level, I actually like was guiding her also through different drills. I mean, we're doing some sensory testing and like some sensory drills with her. Nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy. We're doing a few more eye exercises just to really make sure that we're kind of nailing what we're doing with her. And then after that, I took her to the gym and like we were doing a few specific exercises for specifically to loosen up sort of like the shoulder blade area. Okay, so a lot of you might think, okay, like I'm using like a lot of you might think, okay, strength training, for example, is gonna make you more stiff, or it's gonna, I don't know, like tighten up the muscles. But that's only if you're doing it the wrong way. I use strength training literally to teach my clients nervous systems new ranges of motion. And the reason why I just don't like stretching is because stretching, I mean, I wouldn't say absolute that I hate stretching, but I just don't think it's the most efficient way to actually help people move better. Just because like for me, like stretching and a lot of like mobility training, it's kind of like an ibuprofen where you're not really getting to the root cause, because the muscle is not tight because the muscle decided to be tight, but the muscle is tight because of the nervous system. And in her case, like we just actually like wanted to really focus on kind of like loosening up some of the area in her shoulder blade. So I was doing a lot of different exercises with her. Also, what I kind of found out during her movement assessments was that not only the left shoulder blade was really tight, but actually like her right hip was extremely restricted too. And like they're kind of, in that case, like the shoulder blade was kind of connected to the hip here, which was also something that I'm addressing here. So for example, one thing that I always like to do here is to actually like have the leg that we kind of like want to take the tension off, like having that elevated, and that you can actually see in a lot of the different exercises that I'm doing with her. You always see me like that right leg elevated. So we're doing a lot of different exercises here. We're doing some tricep extensions to actually help her also like move the shoulder blade better. There's a lot of different important connections here. We're doing a few like different squat variations where I actually tell her to like protract the left elbow a little bit more to take tension away from that left shoulder blade. Again, these are all things. In this case, I don't know, is it necessarily only the visual system? Is it only the vestibular system? Or is it maybe also, you know, like in her case, maybe coming from more of like the pelvis or the hips or the rib cage or the feet? I just want to make sure that she's actually doing a few of these exercises at home for her to really like have long-term results. Because like that's always the most important thing for me, is to actually guarantee my clients that whenever they're doing certain exercises that they actually get better. And I think this is something that a lot of people get wrong a little bit about neurotraining. They think like, oh, like you do like 3 exercises and then you just send them home and you never have to see them again and like everything's good. And honestly speaking, I've seen results like that, but it's not usually the way I communicate that with my clients. Like I tell them, and that's kind of like the training in neurotraining. I always tell them, listen, like we kind of want to drive neuroplasticity. We kind of want to teach your nervous system new movement patterns, new ranges of motion. So you actually like, you know, have to put in the work. That's kind of, you know, the best way to describe it to people, so they actually understand what they're doing. But that doesn't mean that we can't have really amazing results like just within one session. And that's kind of what I did with her. And I mean, we did a few more like strengthening exercises for her. I'm always like a big fan of a lot of like unilateral work for clients. As you can see here, one thing that I always cue with my clients is controlling the breathing during the exercises. That's also something like during the neuro exercises or like the classical neuro exercises, whether it's visual training or vestibular exercises or proprioceptive work. I always tell them to actually like have control of breathing. And the reason why is because if you can't breathe through a certain position, your nervous system is not going to feel safe, and that is also not how your nervous system is gonna learn. And that's why I'm also not a big fan of just forcing people into different positions that they can't have available without like all of these different movement compensations. So that's why I'm not a big fan of, for example, getting people into like these crazy either like static stretches, or you see a lot of stuff going on with like knees over toes, and not to say that like that's bad or anything, but it's something where you kind of want to be smart about it. You just don't want to push people or force people into ranges of motion that they don't have available. But that's kind of like a different story for a different day. I really hope like this was helpful just for you guys to see, okay, like how do I structure a session like that? Again, that whole session was probably like around like including the training and some of the neuro work. It was probably around like an hour and a half, just because, you know, like I don't have to do everything in one session. Like I don't have to like address the whole, like all the cranial nerves and like everything in one session. I need to just go after the things that are actually the most important for that person. And if that's, for example, like for her, I literally sent her home with probably, I think it was like 5 exercises strengthening exercises for her to do at home or in the gym. And then it was, I think, 3 or 4 neuro exercises. That was literally it for her to do at home, because that's all in this case that I need her to do until I see her the next time. And I mean, I always kind of, want to keep it flexible with her, just because I'm very busy in terms of like the clients that I can take on, just because, like it's at a certain point, it just becomes really crazy if you have like 20 or 30 or 40 clients that you work with all at once. But in her case, I just told her, okay, like let's just stay in touch and let's just see how you improve over time. So far, so good. I mean, this was around like a week ago. She's been giving me amazing feedback. She's been sending me the videos. And that's also like how I follow up with clients. I usually have them send me over some of her exercises, so I don't have to like see her all the time in the gym or as a personal trainer, because that's usually like not how I work. I work mostly online, so it's easier also for me to kind of give her advice on these things. So yeah, again, I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys were able to get some valuable insights as to how neurotraining works, how you can actually like integrate that into your work. And if you wanna learn more detailed assessments, detailed insights, drills for like different parts of the brain, and like how you can actually be as efficient as possible with your work, so you can really, as me in that session, can create like super fast results with your clients, you definitely want to join our next 2-day neurotraining online course. We have one coming up very soon. If you're interested, you just check the show notes or wherever you're watching this video. The feedback is always incredible. I think it's great for, especially like if you work with clients, if you're a coach, if you're a therapist, if you're an athletic trainer. I mean, here we didn't really talk a lot about performance, but I mean, these things you can also kind of transfer over to performance. and not just pain or movement, because they kind of go hand in hand, and the brain is always in charge of all of that. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing your feedback. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you want more of this. Again, I can always promise to record a full session, but if the clients are cool with it, then we can definitely do that more often. And yeah, guys, I see you in the next video. My dogs also want the attention now, so I gotta get off here, but I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye-bye.